All right, let's go. I'm Patrick Brady.
Of Chinbro,
Right. Pat Brady of Chembro, host of,
co-host
thank you, Orion, co-host of Maine Better.
Transportation Association.
Orion, you're ruining the introduction. I'm the
Sorry.
co-host of Maine Better, where we discuss community and connection for the Maine Better, now you can say Transportation Association.
Right, Maine Better Transportation Association, and I'm Orion Breen.
Of Global Partners. I do like being interrupted. With us today is Representative Trey Stewart, who is running for the District 2 seat of the Maine Senate. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful morning here in Aroostook County, and it's going to be a great day.
Isn't anybody going to ask me how I'm doing?
Sorry, Orion. How are you doing today?
I'm a little nervous. This is our first episode.
Well, you're doing just fine.
Really?
No, not really. But anyways, Trey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you were running?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Presque Isle. I went to Presque Isle High School, graduated there in 2012. When I was at UMaine, worked in politics a little bit, worked for Bruce Poliquin, did a lot of veterans casework in his office up here, helping veterans in Aroostook County. That sort of introduction, I guess, got me thinking about running myself for office. And in 2016, I decided to, was successful and became the youngest member of the legislature, still am the youngest member of the legislature. And there's an opportunity to run for the state Senate in this district. And in my 4 years in the House, I've come to learn a lot about Aroostook County, the challenges that we have here. Learned a lot about myself too, and I think the role that I can play in addressing some of those challenges. You know, it's a huge district, 51 towns and communities from, Presque Isle and Fort Fairfield all the way down to Lee in northern Penobscot County. So it's been interesting, particularly these days, trying to get out and talk with folks there, but it's been a lot of fun too. And
I was going to ask you, what's the worst road in your district? But it's such a big district, it might be quicker to just ask, what's a road that doesn't need fixing in your district?
It doesn't need, well, I will say, so in Presque Isle in particular on Griffin Street, which is a street that's right in front of the high school, they just redid that street and it's now like one of the better roads in town. But prior to that, it was like weekly, I was getting a call about Griffin Street. It's such a high traveled road too, because there's a high school, a middle school, the police station, fire department are right around the corner. The problem is it was one of those orphan roads. It's sort of like the state thinks it's a local road, but the local government thinks it's a state road. And so nobody wants to maintain it. And it ends up getting sort of shoved to the back of the line on a wait list to get redone. And for literally like 7 years, it's been just sort of neglected, but they just redid it this summer and it's now great. Haven't gotten any more phone calls about that street, but
Who adopted the road?
I think it was a state project. The state ultimately stepped up and took care of it.
Now that the high schoolers can drive up and down the road, annoying people nonstop. When I grew up in rural Maine, and we'd be like, there's no place to go, so we just get in the car and drive around at night
Right.
with no destination.
Yeah, that was a fun Friday way to burn a Friday night right there. Just drive around with your buddies. As long as you just had to have somebody that was old enough to drive, right? Because if you didn't, then that was kind of a challenge. You're walking a lot.
In high school, what was your dream car, and is your dream car different now than it was in high school?
Well, it's definitely different now because I now drive a truck. And it's true what they say about, and I'm a big, I'm 6'2". So for me, I went from a car that's low to the ground to a pickup truck. And I can tell you, I'm not going back. Once you do that, it's tough to, go back down to, crawling into a car instead of, jumping into a truck. But I like my Dodge. I've got a Dodge 2016 Dodge. And honestly, I've put over 100,000 miles on it since I got into the legislature. And at this point, I'm probably going to be locked into just driving that thing into the dirt, which is fine by me because it's a great truck. And it's actually not bad on gas either because it's a V6, which my little brother gives me all sorts of heck about because he drives a Hemi and, oh, there's not enough gusto in your truck or whatever, but it's good on gas, which is good for what I've been up to the last 4 years and campaigning. It's a good campaign vehicle. I could put all my signs in the back and not have to worry about drive around to wherever, and it's all good.
How many miles is that to Augusta?
Let's see, 230-ish miles one way. When you're on mic, right? That's the one thing they tell you, like, don't do any math live on mic. All right.
It's a lot. Just say it's a lot.
That's right. That's right. It's a bunch. Yeah, it's wicked fast.
Trey, what are some of the specific transportation challenges that your district faces?
Well, it's big and it's very rural. And so, I think we're going to have a real challenge. A lot of these local municipalities don't have huge budgets, right? And paving roads is expensive. Buddy of mine works for Lane Construction. He tells me all the time, prices are going up, It's getting more and more expensive to pave roads and keep them maintained. And ultimately you get faced with some tough decisions about, so you take the Griffin Street, example, right? Where you get the dynamic of orphan roads too, in some of these smaller towns, but folks still have an expectation that, first of all, they're going to be safe, right? And second of all, that they're going to be well maintained and, not be riddled with potholes. I mean, I could close my eyes going down that street before and tell you where every pothole is, right? And I think it's really going to be underscored now with the loss of the gas tax revenue from the summer in tourism season. Our state budget, it's going to be pretty strapped, right? We're seeing the projections come in $1.4 billion, $1 billion shortfall. Ultimately, the state has had a tendency to just rely on bonding, and we'll just send out another bond. We'll do another bond. We'll do another $100 million, do another $150 million. I mean, and you got to fill those gaps somehow, but the model we've got right now is not very sustainable, in my opinion. And, when you talk to folks that are down in Augusta that are doing, they're on the transportation committee, I think there's sort of a consensus there too, that model of just relying on the gas tax, particularly as vehicles get more and more fuel efficient over time, they're driving longer. We've got this model that's based on vehicles, going 12 to 15, miles per gallon. Well, now they're going 25 or 30 in some cases. And then you got electric vehicles. They're not paying any gas tax, but they're still consuming the pavement on the road. It's a challenge. And it's one that, we're going to, and maybe this is the time to do it, right? Reassess, as we're going to have to reassess a lot of things and in terms of state government and how we plan for budgeting and spending and taxing and all those other things. We're going to have to figure out a new model there, I think, in general. This may be a good time to have that discussion too about what the future of transportation funding looks like. Because if the state doesn't do it, then it falls on the backs of localities. And localities really only have, they've got vehicle registrations to some extent, but the big one is property tax, right? And nobody likes property taxes. I certainly don't. I pay them here in Presque Isle on my house, and it's never a fun time. They're coming right up around the corner here. And you got to budget accordingly, right? And plan accordingly. But if the state doesn't step up to some extent to help fill those gaps, we're going to be faced with either less safe and more beat up roads or a higher tax burden on the local side to try to fix those. And neither of those are good options.
Well, thanks to your brother for paying more than his fair share of gas tax with his Hemi.
Oh yeah, he burns it. He burns it.
Why do you think it's good to have a perspective like yours that's more of a younger perspective than the typical legislator?
Even though I'm young by legislative standards, right? I mean, I'm 26, but that's considered, I'm still the youngest one down there, right? But that said, I know that I'm effective. I mean, I passed more legislation last year than any other Republican in the state. I think that's a testament to the fact that if you find those issues where you can agree with folks across the aisle, focus on them, right? And keep working them and be sure to do and stay focused on the things that folks back home actually care about.
Yeah, I mean, red or blue, we're all Mainers. At the end of the day, we all drive the same roads and we all gotta work together to get where we want to go.
Well, that's all we have time for today. So thank you so much for joining us, Trey.
Thank you guys. I had a lot of fun with this. This has been definitely one of the more fun interviews I've done in a long time. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. Appreciate the offer and, appreciate the work that you guys are doing to make sure that Maine roads stay safe and well funded and in good shape. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much.